Folks, there's never not any drama when it comes to big boy pants golf. We got the live situation hopping off right now. You got the one camp of Brooks Koepka, as Jake Span Golf refers to him. He's the alpha. And then you got MATT WOLFF, the sigma. We're going to go through socio-sexual dynamics. I believe that's how it's called. Let's get into it now. Jake Span Golf.
This is a weird situation, by the way. So obviously we knew something was up. We didn't know it was up until before the DC event. And then all of a sudden, going into Sunday on DC, MATT WOLFF pulls out with an injury. Now, again, we don't know if there actually was an injury. We don't know if there was an argument, but something was up that made no sense. MATT WOLFF is young, healthy overall, and all of a sudden was withdrawing from the event, not playing the final round. And then follow-up, we see him later on that month, no longer tagged on any of the Smash GC social media. And then later on that month, we see him walking off of US Open qualifying 6 holes in. Fast forward, plays Andalusia last week. Doesn't play horrible, but he's at least out there all 3 days. Then this week, the news comes out that Brooks Koepka has made comments basically saying, hey, he has amazing talent, but it's wasted talent. Basically paraphrasing, saying that he's giving up on the guy. He doesn't have faith in him anymore. Or at least that's what's being taken and translated in media. It's a strange situation because then MATT WOLFF fired back basically saying, hey, this is my captain. It doesn't feel good to have your captain saying that he doesn't believe in you. That's paraphrasing. We can go into detail further.
First off, we have to go back to the gym injury. I believe another member of that team was also injured.
Yes, Jason Kokrak missed the second round onward in that same event. Again, with an injury seemingly related to the gym.
So that gives me, if I'm a MATT WOLFF fan, a little bit more firepower because you're like, not only is MATT WOLFF injured, you have Jason, who's built like a bull, Kokrak, injured. We need to know what Koepka is doing in these workouts because he blew out his own knee. He ruined his own body for a period of time. Was he just asking these guys to do some push-ups and some crunches, or are you having them do like serious heavy squats and deadlifts?
That's a very good, serious question because there are two camps when it comes to working out. Personally, I'm all about low weight, high rep counts. I personally never go above 20 pounds as far as free weights, but I'll do 300, 400 reps. High rep count, low weight. I'm not interested in hurting my body. I want to keep speed up. I want to keep flexibility up. But you're right. Players like Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau in 2022 or 2021, all about high weight, low reps. So that's a good question right there.
Did you just say you do 300 to 400 reps?
I'll usually put on the song Call on Me by Eric Prydz and just pump out like 300 to 400, reps and bicep curls. And then I'll usually stop for a few minutes and then go back and do 300, 400 more. So I'll probably do about, when I'm working out, probably about 1,200 bicep curls. Yeah.
You're essentially doing step aerobics.
Basically, but I'm only using like 20 pounds in each arm, so it's not horrible.
Okay, this is a story for another time. We've also got to focus on Brooks Koepka's quote, which I believe is at least partially lifted from the Robert De Niro movie, A Bronx Tale. Remember, there's nothing worse in life than wasted talent.
Absolutely. When you have amazing talent, it's very funky whenever you see it not being used. And we all know it. MATT WOLFF is one of the most talented kids out there. I say kid, he's a young man at this point, but you know what I'm saying. He's got the stuff. And when you see somebody that has the stuff and has the ability, but doesn't have whatever it is to bring it all together, it's really a weird feeling. And I think Brooks Koepka is, in a way, jealous of MATT WOLFF's natural talent. And I'm not saying that like he's jealous. I'm just saying like he sees the talent there and is angry that he doesn't have that natural talent.
Would you say that MATT WOLFF top 10 or top 12 most talented people on live right now?
I'd say top 3 as far as talent. You got to say, remember, talent is not the same thing as ability. Talent is if we look at like most talented golfers ever, number one most talented athlete ever in golf, John Daly, hands down. And it's been quoted saying, Tiger Woods said, if I had your talent, I'd probably live the same way that you do also.
In some ways, Tiger Woods did, because I believe Hooters and Waffle House was also part of John Daly's life.
You're right. You're right. But you understand what I'm saying is that um, John Daly had way more talent than Tiger Woods. And I think we see this here where Matty Wolff has way more natural talent than Brooks Koepka. Remember, Brooks Koepka was not highly touted growing up. He was somebody who had to go fight his ass off on the Challenge Tour, on the minor tours of Europe, just to try to get somewhere in pro golf. And when he finally did rise up, he was a phoenix who was, molded in the fires, a stronger, better person for it, because he had to walk through, infinite coal mines and landmines to be the man that he is as far as a golfer. We don't see it with Matty Wolff. We see somebody who's just naturally failed upwards. And I don't even like saying that, because that sounds mean to him, but that's what it is. He's somebody who's just naturally progressed upwards without really that hardening coal into diamond process.
Don't hold me to this, but I believe it was the 2020 US Open. He finishes second to Bryson.
Yes, that's correct.
And you've also got a guy who I think even Bryce would say that he was hitting it as far as Bryson at that time.
Yeah. And you have to be insanely talented to have a swing like his. You do. You have to be insanely talented to have. When you see these players that have these really, really unique swings, there is a lot of talent there. And the kid was somebody that we all thought was going to be, where Colin Morikawa is career-wise right now. I think that's fair to say. And he's not. And so I think part of this is Brooks letting off steam and just realizing there's a lot that goes into this. Because Pants, remember, Matty Wolff was part of the preseason swap. Remember, there was the 3 players that were swapped. We had Gooch, Uline, and Matty Wolff that all swapped teams.
What's interesting about Matty Wolff in that he's part of that class of Morikawa and Victor Hovland. And when those 3 guys came out, he's the first one who got the win. And now he's kind of faded away back into the woodwork, where you have Victor Hovland just popping off top 10s at majors now, and Morikawa already with 2 majors.
And, it's one of those things where people still, I think it's funny how that works out, because we look at Matt Wolff. Matt Wolff is being seen as a letdown right now. Morikawa is being seen as steady, a perennial Ryder Cup team level player, steady in there. And then you have Victor Hovland, who, even though he's doing so much and doing so well, we still see increased expectations upon him. So we still see upward mobility. It's pretty weird that that's working out for those 3.
So Koepka, for those on the Team Koepka side, the argument is that Matt Wolff is soft. And a lot of it, I guess his softness is maybe his openness. He does a little bit of the Max Homa thing, where you put your feelings out there all the time. You talk about mental health. And even here, when he heard the quote from Brooks Koepka, Matthew Wolff referred to it as heartbreaking. That's very feminine energy. We have to call it what it is.
I don't like even saying it like that, because I do believe it's important to share what's going on. But I feel like all these conversations are things that should have been shared in private within the team locker room and not in public. Now, who knows? These may have already been talked about in private so many times that it's just no longer useful anymore to talk about them in private. I don't know what one-on-one, I don't know what Brooks Koepka's management style or leadership style is. We know that he's alpha AF. We know that he's somebody who takes no crap from anybody. And I'm sure that he expects the guys in his entourage to do the exact same, to play his game, And I bet you, his brother is beta AF for him, as far as, yes, sir, no, sir, I will follow what you do. If you say we're going to do 20 more squats, let's do 20 more squats, because he has to. His bro's made his career. And then you have Kokrak, who I'm sure follows along pretty well. But I see Matty Wolff as being someone who, again, so talented, kind of a savant, is somebody who probably wants to exist outside of those rules.
Well, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up Chase Koepka. So you got Brooks, and people are pointing this out too. Brooks is teeing off a bit on Matty Wolff. But it's pretty obvious that Chase Koepka is probably the second worst player out there right now on his team. Do you
Well,
think a
no,
little
he's
bit?
the worst player on the team
I'm sorry, in the league.
in
So
the
Chase
league.
Koepka
Yeah.
is most definitely the second worst player on Live Golf, and yet Brooks Koepka is not teeing off on his brother. Doesn't really address that issue. He just tees off on Matty Wolff.
There's two parts to that. I think one of the main parts is that Brooks Koepka knows his brother doesn't have the he doesn't have the talent that he doesn't have talent. He's a good golfer. He's a good pro golfer.
What you mean to say he's untalented? Please continue.
That's what I'm trying to say. Chase Koepka does not have anywhere near the talent level that Brooks, Jason and Matt Wolff have. Those guys are up here as far as talent level and the propensity to be able to do pro golf, right? But then you have, Chase, who's down here. So it's you can't really fault a donkey for not being able to do the work of a Clydesdale.
That's very direct. I just said untalented. You went into that mean, hurtful. Max Homa
I'm not
tweets.
being mean.
Max Homa tweets back at you. Max Homa does not appreciate that comment. But let me go on with this. We've got Brooks Koepka, and I feel like Brooks Koepka is one of these Lou Holtz quote types of guys. And Lou Holtz's quote is, "Don't tell your problems to people. 80% don't care, and the other 20% are glad that you have them." So Matt Wolff has already been out on record a bunch of times about his struggles. At some point, I think Brooks is like, enough already. You've told everyone you have these struggles. You've got to move on. Obviously Brooks had his own struggles, and then he tee for seconds at the Masters, wins the PGA Championship. He's trying to give him, I think, some of that tough love.
I think so, but it's kind of funny because Brooks aired his own problems on the Netflix series, and we didn't give him crap for that. But I guess those are different problems. Your body failing you and you failing to prepare your mind, I feel like are two different things. Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of tough to really evaluate these apples to apples because one is physical, where like Brooks is like, hey, my knee does not freaking work. And then Matt Wolff is, hey, I can't get my head right. And so I don't know if you really can compare them apples to apples there.
I want to read this quote by Jack Nicklaus that I came upon today, and I think it's very applicable to the situation. This is from My Story, the book that Jack Nicklaus co-wrote with Ken Bowden. It's from Simon & Schuster, 1997. "Once the gun has gone off, you keep quiet and get on with the job as best you can. The more you let your mind dwell on negatives of whatever type, the larger they grow and the greater the risk that you will convert them into excuses. I prefer to save my energy for finding solutions to problematic conditions rather than wasting it on whining."
Damn straight. Oh, he's correct. I mean, because ultimately, that's how I am in business. That's how I am in life, man. When I have a problem, I do property management, by the way, folks. And so there are a lot of times where I have a situation like, hey, last week I had a tree limb break off and hit a house. I gotta take care of that. I gotta figure out how to take care of that. Now I can sit around and cuss and stew and whine about that for a week and let that little problem turn into a huge, ginormous problem that ends up costing the company that I work for, a lot more money. Or I can get the job done. And ultimately, if I start if I dwell on the problem and complain about the problem, I'm never going to fix the issue. I'm never going to fix anything. And then, 2 weeks later, all we're going to have is, I just can't get it done. Versus, hey, it's over. It sucked, but we moved on. And you have to do that in life, especially in sports.
I feel like you're becoming more of a Team Brooks guy right now.
I've been a Team Brooks guy in a lot of ways. And honestly, I'm a fan of Brooks. But my big critique of Brooks in the situation is I don't like my captain speaking out publicly against an active teammate. That's just something that Derek Jeter would never have done. Derek Jeter is, in my opinion, the perfect example of what a captain should be and is. Is that fair to say?
Not only is that fair to say about him being a captain on the field, this guy was a true captain off the field. If you read about him and the models he dated, he would apparently leave them a gift basket as they were taken back to their place in a limo. This guy's all class.
That's how you do it, bros. But, real talk, though, I mean, Brooks is in the right to be upset with Matty Wolff's play. especially because he realizes, hey, this guy has the talent and the ability. It shouldn't have been aired out in public. You don't air your dirty laundry out like that. It reminds me of the Jordan Rules situation where in 1992, where they had like the Sam Stevens book comes out with the design to break apart the team. And so now instead of having a team pushing toward the end line of the season, coalescing and becoming this one fiery, strong unit, we now see one of the potentially stronger teams in live golf fractured and confused and splintered and potentially throwing shade at each other in the locker room. Where you have this awkward situation with the Koepkas versus Matt Wolff, and then Jason Kokrak's just sitting there confused.
You want to talk about an awkward situation? Let's think about the new Jordan's rules. Michael Jordan's son is now dating Scottie Pippen's ex-wife.
Larissa Pippen? Yeah.
So
sometimes you got to go old to go happy, I guess. Whatever.
Now let's get to Team Matty Wolff, the Sigma side. I've got a quote here. It's from Lou Stagner, Golf Stat Pro. For the record, I responded to this tweet and I was blocked today. I'm a little unhappy about that.
How dare you?
Lou goes with Brooks blasted Matt Wolff for giving up, saying he's not a fan of giving up. And then Brooks goes on to say he has basically given up on Matt Wolff. I am confused. There are situations where it is okay to give up. I thought Brooks said giving up on something was bad. In my opinion, Brooks could have handled this much differently, especially considering how open Wolff has been about his mental health struggles, poor form on the part of Koepka here, very poor form. And to this, I responded by the fact that, and I believe I used the word conflate correctly for the first time it's ever been used correctly, in that Lou is conflating giving up as in terms of quitting with giving up in terms of not believing in someone. Lou apparently reads this, freaks out and blocks me because it's so right and it's so true. And now he knows how to use the word conflate. This is all about Team Wolfie side. How do you factor this in there? Do you think this whole mental health issues he's having should always be aired out as well?
I think that he needs to. I mean, if there's obviously we want the stigma shred a little bit to where people can be open about these problems rather than going crazy and hurting themselves or hurting others or making their situation worse because they don't have the tools in themselves to get better. I understand that. I'm cool with that. I hope that people are able to take inspiration from Matt Wolff down the line. People that are struggling can find peace and growth and a connection to him in that. I don't think that the mental health thing though needs to always be the focus. I think that you're a professional golfer, and when a character flaw or a physical flaw becomes the only conversation point of a professional player in any sport, that's not a good sign for that professional.
I would understand Matt Wolff's mental struggles more if he was Jim Furyk. Matt Wolff has a full head of hair.
Oh, so you're saying like the stressed out factor, like you just can't, like, I don't see stress on you. Is that what you're trying to say? Like, where are you stressed at?
Exactly. I mean, I don't want to make light of his situation. The dude has a full head of hair. He's 24 years old. One of the most talented guys out there. Maybe at this point he's getting in his own way.
So you're saying that basically he's just overprivileged and he doesn't actually have mental problems. He just has discipline problems. Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know if I'm saying that, but you know how people react to things differently. For some people, your car doesn't work, you get it repaired. Other people, your car doesn't work, now you can't leave the house for a week.
That's true. Okay. I understand what you're saying now. You're saying that he hasn't experienced enough hardship in his life to really test that fade and build up that fortitude, that backbone to be able to just power through problems. Is that what you're saying?
Does that sound good?
I mean, that sounds more fair. I mean, again, this is a guy with insane talent. So and this is a problem with so many pro golfers, is that they were the guy in junior high who showed up, and won every single tournament in high school, whether they practiced or not. Junior high, high school, junior tours, and they get to the pro level, college. They're dominating in college. Also, they get to the pro level finally, and now they're finally up against people that they can't beat. And so some people react to that very correctly. The guys who were third on the college team or fourth on the high school team, those guys, when they get to the pro level, usually know how to react because they never were the guy. But sometimes the guy doesn't react very well because they're like, what? I'm no longer the guy. This happens in pro sports all the time where, the college star in the small division or the high school athlete who goes to college, then all of a sudden gets his fade run or his bell rung his first day in practice. And then he realizes, wait, I'm not hot shit anymore. Now all of a sudden he has to figure out, okay, do I push in and move past this? Or am I just not built for this because I never had adversity growing up?
I don't want to admit this, but I skimmed through this golf.com article about this guy saying he had to take time off from golf. And it turns out he's the instruction editor at golf.com. So I'm skimming the article, very Max Homa, very needy. And it's like the dude's a 13 handicap. So the instruction editor at golf.com is
the instruction editor.
Thank you very much. He's a 13 handicap. And his whole big deal about why he's stressed out is when he tells people what he does and they realize he sucks at golf, it doesn't relate. Now he has more pressure on himself to perform because he's the instruction editor as a 13 handicap. So, in big letters where it breaks up the little paragraph sections, it's like, then I decided to take 3 weeks off. whoa, dude. So then it just keeps on going down where it's just like, one of the things is he has to do is manage expectations, where someone else commented, you could just tell people you're a plumber or something and just get out of that situation. You don't have to build it up like that. But this is the article I'm reading. And I'm starting to think, is this like kind of a Matty Wolff situation where you're just maybe putting too much pressure on yourself? Even though if you're a 13 handicap, I'm a 10 handicap. I have very low expectations out there. Nowadays, I just focus on bringing body armor, bananas, roasted and salted peanuts, and coconut water, just so I don't get heat stroke. The only goal I have as a 10 handicap in 105-degree heat is not dying. So I don't understand the other pressure here. Matt Wolff, you got the bag. You got a full head of hair. You're 24 years old. You don't suffer. You don't need that Ozempic. You're not having to jab yourself with fat loss all the time, probably melting your bones.
I mean, real talk. If I was Matty Wolff in his situation, I mean, the kid's a good-looking dude. He's rich as hell right now. He's a great golfer. Why are you stressed out, bro? You should be visiting college campuses and, on the weekends and basically just running off with 6 cheerleaders every single weekend. Like, bro, come on. Like, what are you doing? Why are you so stressed out? Smile. You're rich.
Jake Span Golf, I think you're being a little insensitive now to his mental health issues.
I probably am a little bit. I mean, I'm kind of a little jelly, man. If I had his talent, if I had his hairline, if I looked like him, I think I'd have a little bit easier life right now. If I had his bank account, I'd have an easier life right now. Why are you stressed out, bro?
Is it possible that this whole Brooks and Matty Wolff dynamic was a fail from the get-go? Considering if you watch those tailor-made staff commercials where they have all these guys hitting bunker shots together and doing all these trick shots or doing some kind of a little goofy challenge, Matt Wolff, if you look at the comment section, everyone notices this, never stops talking. On the other hand, you got Brooks Koepka, barely utters a word.
You're right. Even in the promotional material for Live Golf, when they're trying to sell the personality of the captains, you could tell they're just trying their best to force Brooks Koepka to show personality. Like especially in the season 2 opener, the ones that came out in January before the Mayakoba event, they were all trying to, hey, we gotta promote your team personality, and the best they could get Brooks Koepka to do was, that's all they could get him to do, because he's very stoic. He talks in the interviews, but the interview talks are not promotional material talking. He's not a mouthpiece like Ian Poulter, and that's not a bad thing. It's just his personality. And then you're right. You got Matt Wolff, who seems kind of somebody who can be this way or that way. And so talks to himself a lot, talks to others a lot. I can see what you mean.
Brooks Koepka is the most willing to be naked.
What?
You heard me. If you look at all those, anytime there's a chance for him to do a photo shoot, he's like, I'll just take my clothes off.
But he's not like Gronkowski naked, where they're like, Gronk, put your dick away.
I don't want to go there, but I'm going to say that Matty Wolff, on the other hand, he seems like the kind of dude you'd want to have a beer with because he'd be talking the whole time.
I don't know, man. sometimes, okay, so sometimes you do want your people with you to shut the hell up. Sometimes. Other times you're right. You do want a good conversation. And I feel like Brooks would be a harder person to have fun with on most nights, unless he's coked out like he was at the Panthers games. But you're right. I think most nights Matt Wolff would be someone you'd have more fun with.
Until he starts going off into that Max Homa world
Oh,
where you're like, dude, come on, dude, just that's on you. You got to deal with that. I don't want to. No.
I don't need to hear about your Furby collection. Yeah.
So we have a situation here where Brooks Koepka is openly, basically not even passive aggressively hostile to Matty Wolff. He's openly hostile to him, which leads me to ask, what do you think that Brooks Koepka would do if he had Siwon Kim on his team?
If he had Siwon Kim on his team, I feel like he would have choked him out in the locker room by now. I mean, we joke about that in podcasts about like, hey, Kevin Na should break his leg, or hey, Kevin Na should like take a 7-iron to Siwon's knee. Brooks Koepka might actually do that if he was his captain. And I'll be honest with you, the way that this whole thing is going down with Matt Wolff and Siwon and Brooks, on how the back and forth is just not there, the camaraderie is not there, and they're openly bashing each other in the media. It's making me, and you brought this up a few days ago, and I agree totally with your original point, that it makes me respect Kevin Na so much more because of how he's handling the Siwon Kim situation. He easily has the most inappropriate matched player for the Live Golf League right now on his roster, as far as just, no, your game is not here. And yet, I can't recall or find one negative thing that Kevin Na has said in public or even semi-private about Siwon.
It is interesting knowing Korean culture, being Korean, at least to some extent, about how Kevin Na would be the young or the older brother in this situation. And I'm sure Siwon Kim, if you know Korean culture, and it gets a little weird sometimes because you're having a couple beers with Korean dudes, and like the younger dudes can technically like feed you food. Like you're at a Korean barbecue and they're putting food in your mouth.
That's actually a thing.
Yeah, dude. I don't want to reveal all of the Korean secrets and the dark triad traits, but you do technically at some point could be fed by a younger male, and it's part of the culture where you just kind of like, I guess I'm eating this meat wrapped up in some leaves that you're putting in my mouth, and I'm not going to tell anyone about it until I have my own hottest golf YouTube channel.
Okay. Apparently, these are things that I'm learning right now. So are you saying that essentially it's just like the culture, like it's a culture? What are you trying to say right here? I'm confused.
I'm saying that Siwon is probably feeding Kevin Na a lot more food and just begging for mercy. And because they have that dynamic older brother, younger brother, you can't put it out there. You understand that there's dissatisfaction, disappointment, dysfunctionality, just like in any family. Whereas you got Brooks Koepka and Matty Wolff, they don't have that cultural bond, and it's a free-for-all in the public right now.
So you're saying essentially that the Ironheads have a much better and well-established and functioning social hierarchy in their team versus Smash, which is just kind of a haphazard Wild West situation right now.
There's been no gelling. There's been no bonding to the point where you're trying to pass one dude off in the middle of the season, and Liv doesn't have the mechanisms to do that.
That's true, because Matt Wolff was actively seeking a trade. And here's my question to you, okay? Matt Wolff left High Flyers before the season started to join Smash. It was a proponent of conversation that made it sound like Peter Uihlein left to go to the Aces, which did happen. I didn't think that was going to happen because I thought, they always talked about how Peter Uihlein was Brooks Koepka's roommate whenever they were traveling on the Challenge Tours. I was like, this makes no sense. This sounds like fake news, but it happened. That's a whole different story. Then we had Taylor Gooch leave the Aces for the Range Goats. Was the High Flyers leaving, was Matt Wolff leaving the High Flyers? Was that intentional by the High Flyers? And Smash just didn't have a fourth person they could find? Is that what actually happened?
I have no idea what happened, but the fact that Matt Wolff is getting passed around and then he's not landing in certain spots, maybe it is a Matt Wolff issue. I don't know, but I'm sure, what do you think right now if Kevin Na could say, hey, switch Matt Wolff out for Siwon Kim, he'd do it?
Man, based on I would say normally yes, but you talking about the hierarchy situation and how there's a culture of respect right there, which there must be, maybe. I mean, if Siwon was causing Matt Wolff problems or saying some smack in the locker room, I could see Kevin Na not putting up with that. Like, hey, bro, you shot 77 yesterday. Shut the hell up. Something like that. So obviously, I have to assume that Siwon is not causing problems in the locker room, right? I have to assume that whatever happens, he's just playing it cool.
I think Siwon's just trying to finish out the next 6 events and then take it on the chin from there. Matty Wolff, I mean, this guy's 24 years old. Siwon's 34, I believe. It's apples to orange comparison because you got one guy at the beginning of his career with tons of promise and potential and another guy who's maybe gets back to journeyman level at best.
Frankly, back to the original question, would you have Matt Wolff over Siwon Kim? Yes, but at what cost does it mean to your team chemistry? Because we don't see that, even with the Ironheads knowingly being handicapped every single week, we don't see them as a non-cohesive unit.
That's true. But you see it as a 3-man team. We see Brooks Koepka's team as not gelling. But what if this lights a fire in Matty Wolff? Because when I checked last time, it was neck and neck, and actually Matt Wolff was ahead of Brooks Koepka.
Well, they both are at the lower end of the totem pole this week right now after round 1. We're filming this at the end of round 1 in the London event. So I don't think it lit a fire under either one of them, and they both look distracted.
Folks, we're going to let you tell us, are you on Team Brooksy? Are you on Team Wolfie? Why or why not? It's been another hard-hitting episode of Big Boy Pants Golf with co-host Jake Span Golf. Go check his channel out and subscribe. This dude needs the subscriptions.
It's true.